Actually, no, let me stop this. Resume the recording and figure out. There we go.
Austin, will your thing notify you if you get an email? Because I just sent it to you real quick.
No, it's okay. I have that on a different computer.
Oh, okay.
We're all good. All right, guys. Thanks for your patience for all of that. Welcome to the Kiki with Kojo speaker series. This is the first installment, and we're talking about building a story portfolio. And I got some awesome guests here. We got Carol Holiday, Luz Batista, Kelly Purdue, and Kiana Mai. You guys all introduce yourselves.
We'll just go in order.
yeah, you left or right. You know, just what you do, what your favorite snack is, whatever you want.
Hi, I'm Carol Holiday, and I am currently a storyboard supervisor at Cartoon Network on Jessica's Big Little World. And my favorite snack, watermelon. Oh, that's so stereotypical, but yeah.
It is what it is.
Off the jump.
Hi, I'm Luz. I'm a storyboard artist over at Disney. I'm on hiatus currently, but I'm currently on Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. And my favorite, am I answering the same question? Favorite snack?
Yeah.
Okay. Popcorn with jalapenos on top.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I've never
That's my
Taste.
Oh, that got me through the movie, working through the movie theaters. It's so good.
I worked at the theater too.
Oh
Same
yeah,
thing,
I
same
have
thing.
questions.
Yeah, we'll talk after.
Oh, Kelly, I think
Kelly,
What? Can you hear me?
Oh, never mind. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Kelly Purdue, and I'm a storyboard artist on a self-imposed hiatus. But my last show was My Adventures with Superman. And my favorite snack is the pita crackers from Trader Joe's.
Hi everyone, I'm Kiana. I'm currently a director on Big City Greens. My favorite snack is probably kakimochi. It's like crunchy rice crackers from Hawaii. They're delicious. If you haven't had them, you should try them.
Nice. All right. Well, let's get into it. Oh, and final one. We got at Yapiko at twitter.com with us on tech support.
Famous streamer.
Yes. So we have
Hi, guys.
Walla here, helping us, keeping this running smoothly. We wouldn't be here without him right now. So thank him in the chat or Q&A. We're treating that as chat right now.
Yeah.
All right. So, and you guys don't really care about me, but I'll give you a little bit of insight into who I am. I'm currently at Cartoon Network. I actually work with Carol. I saw her earlier today on Jessica's Big Little World. I was at Netflix Animation for a couple of years, also in story. And before that, I was an intern at Disney Television Animation on the Owl House. And honestly, I want to just give you guys a little bit of insight into why I'm doing this and why I started this. I wanted to create this low stakes, casual setting where we can all get together and really have an opportunity to elevate Black artists at, the genesis. I think that's where it really begins. And I wanted to create a space where we can have the hard conversations, really talk about, basic skill sets, actionable items, mentorship, and have a space where it's free of judgment. This is going to be a Black space, you're in a Black household now. Everybody is welcome. Obviously, this is open invitation, but the initiative was always to elevate Black artists, to make sure you were seen and you were heard, and you have Black leadership to look up to. And here's what essentially we'll be covering in the first bit. We're going to get to the Q&A in a minute, but I looked at a lot of the questions and I compiled something that might answer a lot of the more common ones we got. So we'll talk about what we're going to do before we start the portfolio. We're going to get into, how to prepare. Then we're gonna go into actually making the portfolio, the technical requirements, what to put in, what to not put in, and then submitting the portfolio and like, you know, what to put in your resume, where to find these jobs, what to put on your website, and then we'll get to the Q&A section. So we're gonna all kind of walk you through that. But first, I wanted to ask you in the chat, you will be able to respond, but ask yourselves what Toy Story, Avatar: Last Airbender, and Spider-Verse like have in common from a story standpoint. And you know, the answer is nothing. They don't have a damn thing in common, right? And this is our first topic, which is talking about point of view. I know we're like laughing because we're just like, oh my God, this is the best. But no, literally, that's, you know, we're laughing about it. But if you leave here with nothing else, leave here knowing that if you don't have a point of view or a thumbprint, this is something we all agree on, you're not going to stand out as much. You know, you need something unique about you that's going to be your calling card, not just to the industry, but as a storyteller at all, right? I have my lovely panelists art here that gives you a clear example of that. I happen to be a fan of all their art, but starting with Kiana and Luz's art, you can immediately see what they like through their art. You know, the way they treat their lines, the content, you know, a lot of you probably know Kiana already coming into the chat. You know that she loves Team Rocket, but I know you're just like, I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out.
I don't know what I'm trying to hide.
Well, you can with art, right? It's super important. It's very clear what you like, clear what you value. And Luz is no different. You know, I worked with Luz in the Owl House. And it was very clear everything you did had intention. And it came from lived experience. It came from, you know, your love of people and the nuances you have when you know, do your acting choices. It's brilliant.
Thank you. That's all I've got.
That might be all you need, right?
Yes.
Carol is our most seasoned panelist, having worked at Disney Features since what was the 80s? Like 84, 3? You started at
No, not that far back.
No.
Although it's not far back. Probably I think like 86. 86.
Yeah, and you worked on Oliver and Company, Tarzan. And
Yeah, Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and Three Musketeers, a lot of the Twos, Goofy movie.
Legend.
status for real. And then we have Kelly's art. This was a collab between Kelly and Winton, and it's breathtaking. And everything you do, Kelly, as well, has a thumbprint and something unique about it. So I want to ask you guys, like, how do you feel about, you know, how do you feel your own thumbprint or your own unique point of view has carried you through your career so far?
I feel like you were saying earlier, like it is kind of what makes you hireable a lot of the time, like your ideas, particularly on Big City Green, since it's story driven. I was hired not just because of my boarding skills and my boarding style. They liked like my sense of humor and like my style of writing and like what I had to say and like my storyboard test and like how I went about it. So it's very like key, I think, in just art in general and working in animation.
Those nuances you brought up earlier are what gets me hired, I think. Just little acting moments. You know, just because when I look at my own work, I'm just like, okay, the thing is done. But I really don't see the parts that people gravitate to until afterwards of like, oh, these little moments that either could be like, I don't know, two characters, a slight touch, like little human moments. I think that's what I like about my work, which is what we talked about, but it's something I can bring up at the moment.
I know for me, you know, because I look at, you know, especially being seasoned, as you say, you know, and I look at, for the longest time, I was, I had an Instagram, but I didn't really look at anybody else because I would see other people and I'd be all like, they're so good. I am intimidated. And now I look at them and I'm all like, oh, I want to learn from these people. But when I got started back in the days when I wasn't seasoned, I applied to Disney feature animation, and I was I said I had met Glenn Keane and I had said I wanted to be in visual development, and he said, "Oh, Carol, you're born and bred in the Disney Briar Patch," meaning I drew like Disney. And he said, for visual development, you want somebody who is so uniquely themselves that when it goes through the Disney gristmill and, all that spark is beaten out of it, it at least has a chance of having some kind of light to it. And so while, as I look at these people and I'm just like oohing and ahhing at them, I've never been that person who has that really super unique style. But what I have worked on, and not as much as I should have, is drawing really well, acting really well. I guess that's my point of view. It's like, if I can't beat them, at the drawing game, I will make sure that I am that really good workhorse. I know that sounds kind of not inspirational, but it's kept me working this long, is that, I always draw well, I always act, I always get my stuff in. So, there are different ways of having your own sort of unique point of view. I'm done talking now.
Okay. Now I'm trying to think of what to say about my own work. Yeah, I think like similar to Luz and Kiana with my work, I know people gravitate to like those sort of intimate moments, and that's usually what I like to do. Very much like character acting and sort of expressions, and sort of like finding those quiet moments in a scene. So I usually just stick to those. I never try to like branch out as much, which you'll hear like conflicting things. But I think like back to what Austin was saying, like your point of view is important. And so like, I don't know, that's my point of view. And so I think like you should just stick to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's terrific. I think that's like actually a really good way to start. You guys all kind of started off strong. We're gonna go now into the making of the portfolio, and we're gonna get more into the technical. So now you guys know point of view is important, right? So keep that with you. We'll probably talk more about that later. But in terms of making the portfolio, we have it broken down into 3 major components. That's the storyboard. You'd be surprised how many people apply without storyboards. So really make sure you have at least 2 or 3. Around 200 panels each, give or take. You don't have to be married to that, but don't let it drag on too long. Don't make it too short and you get a point across. The typical rule of thumb is to have 3 different tones of boards: comedy, drama, and action, to show breadth. And you want to get eyes on your work. I don't know about you guys, but I know like for me, especially starting out, getting additional people to look at my boards when I was like just starting was crucial, because you don't know what's reading or not, right? When you're doing boards, like you'll do something like, I think that's the funniest, that shit's crazy, I love it, right? And you show it to a friend and they're like, I don't get it, right? Or it's like, it's not reading, or I don't really see what the story is. So get critique. Doesn't have to just be from artists either. Like sometimes I feel like non-artists give the best critique because they don't think the way we do. They think more like practically. And for the most part, when you're uploading your boards, like once you have, use Storyboard Pro or Photoshop, you can upload them to SlideShare. This is not sponsored, by the way. It's just a free site that I use to upload my boards. And this is good because you can embed this into your Blogspot or your Made or whatever. I find it to be one of the easiest ones to use. And you can also upload your boards by like a 5x4 or 5x5 format. I don't know if directors look at this as much anymore, but I know when I was applying, which wasn't that long ago, they said having both sometimes was nice. So feel free to do both if you can. You're able to export this on Storyboard pretty easily.
Can I make a
Of course.
comment on that? As somebody who just recently was like supposedly trying to find people to hire, I never looked at that stuff. I only punched through them to see if they understood shot language. So not saying that the panels aren't great, but it's faster to just punch through it. And if it's not working that way, then I passed on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you
And
heard it
correct me
here
if I'm wrong. I feel like having the panels laid out like that is also might be more beneficial for if you're going into feature. I found that like I have like kind of a Pixar background. I was there for like a hot second, but like I feel like seeing like the bigger picture for them is a little more important. Whereas like for TV, at least I'm finding as a director now that it's like you're looking at every little thing in like hookup shots and like like stage direction and all that kind of stuff, which is easier to see when you're clicking through rather than like this. But I think it could be good for feature boards if you're looking to get into that. But again, depends on who's hiring.
That's a super good point, actually. Funny enough, these were from this is from my feature portfolio. So that is an important distinction to make. Applying for TV boards was this feature. I only had one feature job, and I didn't get feedback on my portfolio, but I know I had both of them. So I will never know, but definitely for TV, or I think the good rule of thumb is having to click through, like, Kiana and Carol were saying, you can't really go wrong with that. I think people just like to do that. But that's an option. And you also want to make sure you have thumbnails expiration in your portfolio. Again, you won't necessarily see this in every professional's portfolio. This is just a good rule of thumb to start, thumbnails. A good rule of thumb to start, when you're building your portfolio for the very first time. Thumbnails and expiration not only help show your process, but they can kind of give the directors an idea of who you are as an artist and what you bring to the table uniquely. But you do want to make sure you organize your thoughts. I'm pulling stuff directly from my portfolio that got me hired. So you take it with a grain of salt, right? Every show is different. Every show's needs are different. But this is just what I submitted. For me, I wanted to make sure I had the character vignettes. I want to show character interaction. I showed a bit of my thumbnails just to show my shorthand and how I think, And I also showed a little bit more of the world. I showed the variety of expressions. And that's just what I like. I know what helps me stand out as an artist is my ability to emote and express. I'm not really good at technical stuff, so I hide it behind emotion. And that way you can't really tell, or maybe you can, who knows? But I know that that is one of my strengths. So you want to lean into that. That kind of ties into point of view, right? And lastly, this one is definitely optional, but I heavily encourage you to.
Can I say something about what you just said?
Yeah, of course. Always feel free to stop me.
The fact that you draw extremely well is not hiding your stuff. It's that technical stuff can be taught. But if you can't draw well, I know I'll pass you by. So that the drawing can that's like what I was saying. My point of view is you have to draw extremely well, because the rest of that stuff, that's easy. You learn it, but you need to draw well. So if you don't necessarily know all the camera angles and whatnot, you got to start learning those things now, but make sure you draw well. And not like because your friends like it or like your mom likes it, like strangers like it, kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And not Instagram, everybody likes you kind of well, but I'm just saying that you actually draw well, and
Right. No, let's get into that. This is a good time to talk about. I'm glad you brought that up, Carol. Did you guys want to spend some time talking about like technical, like your draftsmanship? and how you built that?
I think the only way to build up draftsmanship is just by drawing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just consistent practice.
I think,
'cause-
oh, keep going, sorry.
and that's basically is consistently doing it.
Yeah, it's a lot of practice. And then for me, I feel like with TV, especially since boards are so like tight a lot of the times, like when it's being shipped overseas for animation, like your boards have to be like clean. And in that you have to be quite versatile, I would say, in that like, oh, you need to be able to draw like what cartoons look like now. Like I feel like before I was very I drew a lot of anime, obviously, I still do. And then I drew like the Pixar way, like very loose kind of gestural flowy stuff, but that doesn't always work in TV a lot of the time. Like comparing that to like Cricket Green, like on our show, like nothing alike. So learning how to draw like that, for me, I would just do like a lot of drawing challenges, like style challenges, where I would see like, oh, draw like yourself in Gravity Falls style, or draw yourself in like Avatar style, and just like learning to be versatile. And in that, I think you just get better at drawing because you're like breaking down what makes a show look the way it does, and yeah, you're just like just widening your skill set, basically. Like that's how I ended up doing it, and I think it makes it so when people hire me, they know like, oh, she is able and like capable to draw on these styles if we need her to. And I think being versatile on TV is very important.
Yeah. Being versatile had a bit of like it's like a double-edged sword. Or like you can draw everything. It's like, well, what do I look like when I'm not drawing for other people?
Yeah, I feel that.
So kind of accepting being a chameleon of sorts with your work, and being flexible on it, being okay looking like other people's work, other people's styles or show styles, and then seeing what you can learn from that. Because like after jumping from style to style and show from show, I notice I'll take things with me.
Mhm.
You know, it's kind of like, oh, now you know a new trick, you put it in your back pocket. You know,
It's also cool because like your style doesn't necessarily go away. Like looking at all our board artist stuff, it's fun to see like all the different like tillies and crickets lined up. You're like, oh, I can tell exactly like who drew this one. Like your style is still there. I think like you do have to like sort of blend into the show that you're working on, but definitely don't lose what makes you, I would say. Like there's a fine line, but there is a way to do it, and I think that's what brings a lot of charm to a lot of the shows we see today. Like that's what I really liked about Steven Universe, was seeing like knowing exactly like what board artists worked on which episodes, because like, oh my god, like I know exactly who did that. Like I've seen their boards, it looks just like their boards. And I think that's really charming in my opinion.
Some things, in my opinion, are things to work on would be like studying film. Actually like stop framing through, like taking a film, something that you like, and picking a scene and stop framing and drawing each shot. And you don't have to be like super detailed, but what you're looking for is the composition and the foreground and the middle ground and the background. You're looking for tones, so that you can, because if you look at what filmmakers film, you're like, oh, my eye is directed here. I was just watching a video that was talking about George Miller, I think it is, who did not Thunder, well, all those Mad Maxes, but the Furiosa one. And he said, if you look at it, it's just complete chaos all the time. But the way that you knew where to look was because he put the crosshairs, he told the cinematographer to put the crosshairs on the nose, put it on the nose. So if you look at that film, no matter what the cut is, no matter how much insanity is, it's always, exactly where to look. because he directed you to do that. But I didn't notice that. I was just, wrapped up in the story. So study the filmmakers that you like, actually draw them so you can learn some of those things for yourself and also use them in other things. Another thing is just like really simple basic stuff. Like something that was really hugely helpful to me was Studio Binder's shot list. Studio Binder has a bunch of videos that break down different directors, different cinematographers, different writers, whatnot. But because they're trying to sell, their programs and their software, they break down these films and they will tell you how they work. And this is how you can use our software. But they have, I think, like 10 videos called the shot list. And it's basic, like stuff that I should have known when I first got started, but I got started in feature and I just drew. And, whatever they needed, they would come and say, hey, can you do a close-up of Tarzan? Can you, make a shot where he's like super wide? And, I knew basics, but not like everything. And that's how I kind of went along until I got into TV and was lucky enough to sort of make it till I got to a point where they're all like, you're doing jump cuts. And I'm like, I'm not doing jump cuts. And when I looked at the shot list, I'm like, oh, that's what a jump cut is as far as what they're concerned with. So learn those things, look at the shot list, look at all of those. And another thing is gesture drawing, going out and drawing people, and not just drawing them representationally, but drawing them with a story in mind. Everybody here is talking about liking these intimate moments. One of my favorite things in 101 Dalmatians, I know it's like a completely silly thing, but it's when Roger is pushing Anita back up against the wall singing the song, and she looks over her shoulder really quick. And they were using live action, but that's observed. That animator could have left that out, So, looking at the ways people interact with each other and then having an opinion about what you're drawing. It's not just, it's like a party going on my street. And not just, just drawing just to draw, but draw to tell a story with your drawings. Somebody that I really love, I love his work, is Dave Pimentel. And he was the head of story on Moana. But if you look at his Instagram, he does gesture drawings every now and then, a lot, and they're beautiful. But they're not just beautiful because they're solid and fluid. It's because they tell a story, So that's my advice.
That's perfect. You're talking about life draw. That's the last bit of. And I'm gonna pass the mic to Kelly in about 2 seconds because your gestures are insane, right? And the last bit of your portfolio you want to make sure you have, like Carol said, is life drawing or gesture drawing, right? Stuff that you observe, from life, the way you like simplify things. These are sketches I did that were like on a tiny notebook that I had that I blew up like 100%. But I would go to a dojo every other day and I would sketch, them while they're moving. And I would try to find ways to simplify the shapes. I kind of took notes from, when I would do film studies, and I would like invent poses when I would life draw. And
beautiful.
I wanted to thank you. I want to know what Kelly, what are your thoughts on gesture drawing and how that's kind of helped elevate your like storytelling skills? Passing the mic.
I don't know. For me, I just find drawing fun. Like, I do it because I enjoy it, and it's the thing that I want to do, and I like making good drawings. And so, like, for me, I think gesture drawing is like a great way to sort of capture an emotion that a person is experiencing, like really quickly. Like, you observe someone and then you very quickly try and draw that down. And through that, you sort of explore like, what is that person going through? How are they feeling? You know, what time of day it is. And I think that in itself can like, you know, tell a story. Like just going to like a cafe or a park or something, or even if you're like in class and like drawing the people there can like inform you so much. And I feel like when I was doing that, especially when I was a student, that's when I grew the most. So those are my thoughts on gesture drawing. But I also have like thoughts in general about like, we're talking about techniques and things like that, and, you know, actionable things that you need to do. But I think like the most important thing, like from my perspective, is to give yourself time. Because we're like throwing all these things at you. But like in my experience, like I think I started taking art seriously, you know, I would say like when I went to college, like I went to art school. And I didn't get my first boarding job until about like, you know, full time, like a year and a half after I graduated. So that's about like, you know, like five and a half years of like, you know, to become a professional storyboard artist and like learn all these things. So that's just, you know, what I've been thinking about. It's just like, we're telling you all these things, like watching movies and drawing all the time, but also like, remember, like, this is a process. And for some people it's faster, for some people it's slower. And I think just like, you know, the most important thing is that you enjoy drawing and you like enjoy storytelling. And I think if you hold on to those things, like you'll figure it out and like you'll be okay.
Yeah, patience, you know, I love that you said that. Patience is like the biggest thing. Is I see so many people on the internet who were bitter because they're not board artists now. And there is nothing more off-putting than a bitter young artist. Especially when you look at their work and you're like, you're not ready, you know. You know, and you know, I love that, you know, you said that you grew the most when you were just drawing. I mean, that's what I did too. I wasn't asking anybody for help. I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking for people for help, but if you get, there's a point where you get advice, you have to actually move on it and you have to give it time to actually bake. When you, I went to culinary school for a year just because I couldn't find a job. And I'm like, well, maybe God wants me to make cookies now. And one of the things that I learned is that you don't keep checking your food in the oven. You just close it and trust the process. You know, trust that the oven is going to bake it. And you start to learn that, okay, maybe I don't have to let it go a full 25 minutes. You know, I can bring it out at like 24 and, you know, and 39 seconds. But you get that feeling after baking a lot of bread, you know, so, but it takes time. It took me a year to finally get like a sourdough boule to look like sourdough boule from, you know, scratch, you know? And I was like, yes, I can make bread. And then I gained all this weight. So that's the thing, you know.
Oh, yes.
That's the thing is, you know, it's like you do your stuff and then you'll be able to get fat off of it, but you have to be in the lean practicing times. You have to cut a lot of bags of potatoes to finally be able to get the perfect quarter Julian strip, you know. But everybody wants to, you know, work at the cordon bleu. Everybody wants to work at Disney or Pixar immediately. They want a job. They want, you know, why can't I get in? I need to know somebody. No, you don't. Not necessarily, you know. And if you're good, you know, there's a person that I hired. She's a friend, but I didn't hire her because she was a friend. I hired her because I watched her over the years that I knew her working on. She wasn't asking for anything. She was just working on her stuff on Instagram. And after a while, I started being like, hey, you should try this. And she'd be like, oh, okay. And then she tried that. I said, I realize I'm giving you storyboard advice, but you work on your comics, but, you know, and she's all like, okay. So she would do them. And then one day she came to me and she was like, hey, you know, Women in Animation's doing like a story mentor thing. Should I apply for that? And I'm like, sure, why not? And she was too late for it. And so I'm like, I'll mentor you. And she was like, you will? I'm like, dude, I've been forcing you to take my help for the last year. You know, why not? You know, but when I got this job, she was the first person I called. You know, she knows nothing about storyboarding, but except, you know, when I started teaching her, but she drew well and I watched her progress, you know, when she asked for nothing from anyone. You know, it's like we have to be willing to put in the work ourselves. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but that's my.
It is all good. We're gonna get through the rest of the PowerPoint just so we can get to the Q&A. I realize we're doing pretty okay on time so far, but this is all great. This is all great stuff, guys. Thank you so much for all the input. I'm living.
I'm learning.
No, it's good. It's really, really good. The last thing we wanted to kind of cover before we open the floor for Q&A is finally submitting your portfolio. So, you know, you did the technical stuff, you did the drawing, you have the point of view, you have all that going for you. Now it's time to submit. I'm literally just grabbing this job posting, you know, that was posted a month ago or something like that. So what you do when you see this, a lot of people in the chat, in the question box, when they registered, asked about resumes and how to build that for story. We're not gonna spend too much time talking about that, but I will show you an easy way, a little easy cheat way, is to look at the job summary, look at the skills and qualifications, and literally also shout out to Kennedy for letting me use your resume for this presentation. I was stressed. Take your resume, make it simple, make it easy to read. Kennedy has a lot of experience. You do not need the 6 month experience to get a job, but notice what she did. You know, she took like what was on the job description and she literally put it in her resume. Right? It's like, it's little things like that. You think they don't matter, but it's subconscious, right? The person reading it is they want something. They're doing a musical show, right? It's like, oh, Kennedy she worked on a musical show already? All right, she has good sense of timing. All right, perfect. It's like they're thinking that, right? Or sometimes a person looking at it isn't even on the show yet. They're a recruiter. You know, they're trying to like weed people out. So that's just a good, quick way to build a resume. You can do that if you worked at Starbucks. You could do that if you worked at, you know, if you volunteered. Job posting says needs solid and consistent time management skills. You do that at Starbucks. It's like you manage a team. You got orders out on time. You can literally copy and paste those descriptions into your resume. So keep that in mind. But the last thing we want to kind of cover before we open the floor is, and that's a little closer look at it, but we can always go back to this at the end, formatting, right? So this I think is super important. Again, we won't spend too much time on this right now. We'll open the floor to questions. Shout out to Alex for letting me use your portfolio. I hate Alex, by the way. His stuff is so polished, and I'm calling him out specifically because he's always been good at that. But it took him time. You know, he really had a point of view. He spent time on his portfolio to make sure it was polished. He had his name, he had his email, he had his website. He made it easy to contact him. He made sure everything was labeled in a similar fashion. He had this like, you know, yellow and whatever font plus white and whatever font. He had that for his entire portfolio. He had everything laid out clean. And then when he got a thumbnail section, he had that a little bit different. He had a specific layout for that. You know, he had a language for his portfolio and he made sure that it was clear and easy to read, right? He decided to upload his portfolio to a blog spot at the time when he got his first job, and that's completely fine. Kennedy decided to do a website. It's super clean, it's polished, easy to navigate, super, super important. And another question we got in the box was, can I put in personal art or can I put in art that isn't story related? And the short answer is yes. Just make sure, kind of like Kennedy did, make sure it's all you, make sure it still gives a sense of who you are, make sure it's not too much, and make sure the art is solid. You know, kind of like Carol was saying, and, you know, Kelly and Kiana and Luz, like you have to make sure your drawings are good. You gotta make sure they are solid because you don't want to have these storyboards that you might have spent too much time on, and then you show your personal art and then it's lacking in those fundamental skills. So make sure if you're going to show personal art that it's at the same level as everything else in your portfolio. Only show your best. And with that, we can finally move to the Q&A, and we can get some questions in there. We can kind of chat in the Q&A box, which is literally, that's the only way we can have engagement. We're gonna have more of these guys, by the way. So this is the first of a few. So we're gonna have a part 2 to this in a couple of weeks. So don't worry if you don't get to your question right now. There will be more of these, and we'll definitely get to them. So let's start with a basic question. Also, Walla, if you see any questions that I missed, feel free to just bring it up and flag it. All right. So what is the best way to get your board seen by the right people when you lack real life connections? Asks anonymous attendee. How do you guys feel about that?
For me, my answer is always social media, just because that's how I got hired personally. Like, definitely not necessary. There's plenty of people who obviously got their jobs by not doing that. But I feel like nowadays having a social media presence is somewhat important, or at least like a place where you're putting like your body of work. I think it's like Twitter, for example, I think was a good place for me to just like put my work out there, but then also show like, oh, this is like who I am. This is my personality. Like that's how my showrunners found me. It's really funny that I'm on this panel because I have never had a portfolio or a resume in my life. I just kind of posted Team Rocket art everywhere, and they're like, oh, she draws good. Let's give her a storyboard test. And it was just like through talking to people, like just posting stuff that I enjoyed is what got people's eyes on my work in general. And then I think eventually people will see that like on social media, obviously. But I feel like the art community online is just very small. So all it takes is like one retweet sometimes to get like your work in front of the right, like on somebody's feed. And I think that's what happened for me. Like I just happened to get my work seen by Chris and Shane Houghton, and they liked what they saw. And despite not having any storyboard work anywhere visible on my like on my site or on Twitter or anything, they liked my comics and like my art style enough to reach out and give me a shot at a storyboard test, which was where I was able to show what I could actually do. I don't know if anybody else has other advice other than social media, because that's just my experience, but I know there's a million other ways to do that.
My foot in the door back in 2014, and the semester leading up to graduation, I was emailing, they taught us how to search for studios, so online, and seeing how to contact them. So I did do a lot of like the blind contacting of info@studio.com, and I had my portfolio ready, my website, everything set up to go, and submitted a bunch that way. And although my first job I didn't get it that way, my second job I did, which was at Shadow Machine. They just happened to be hiring someone right at that moment, or like hiring a bunch of people. And I was able to jump in that way, but they didn't know me. And that was a way of just contacting through the website and writing a short but sweet email. I don't know. I would still do that today, along with social media presence, because you lose nothing in just poking or to the right people. I never emailed anybody personally, like any personal emails, unless it was someone referred me to someone. But actually applying online and reaching out to the studios directly does work sometimes. And yeah, I'll stand by that one. Because I think I've gotten board tests that way too, like at Rough Draft, and I think Cartoon Network once sent me a board test that way too. I didn't get hired, but that's okay.
I mean, that's part of it too, right? Rejection.
Yeah, rejection.
Yes.
I'm gonna get through a couple more of these questions. We may not be able to answer all of them, but anyone can chime into any of these. All right. Is it okay to just randomly ask professionals online for critique? And or what is a good way to find someone to critique?
I'm personally okay with it. I think it's just sometimes professionals are usually busy and might not be able to get to you, which is okay. For me, I don't mind when people reach out to me and email me, but I just in my head hope that they understand that if I don't get to them, it's not personal. It's just I have a deadline coming up and I can't get to this right now. But I think generally people are okay with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with shooting your shot. Yeah, I don't personally mind. I actually am in there's this little group of students on Twitter who had just a storyboard chat for themselves, and one of them reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to be in this just to I don't know, keep up with us and see what we're doing? I was like, okay, sure. And since then I've gotten really close to them. They're all great people, and they're all still trying to break into the industry, but I've done a couple private sessions with them. I'll just be in the chat hey, I'm free today if any of you guys want to show what you're working on, and I'll just give them little tips here and there over the course of an hour or two. So it's definitely doable. You never know who would be down and who wouldn't be, but it's worth a shot, I would say.
But yeah, definitely remembering that everybody has obligations.
Mhm.
And if they have time, then they will get back to you. I always feel like I should say something, but lately I've just been so inundated by requests. I'm just I'm so sorry, I can't. And here is some suggestions for ways of getting information. And once again, are you using what you already know, before you start trying to get help from other people? Yeah, but going back to the applying to studios, that's how I got my Cartoon Network job. I applied to everyone, and then everyone again, and then everyone a third time, and a fourth time. And finally, I just sent in an expression of interest to Cartoon Network. They had that button on there, and forgot about it. And then maybe about 4 or 5 months later, they were like, hey, we're doing a little kid show. Do you want to do storyboard supervisor? I was all say, what? Okay, sure. Just because I had done an expression of interest. So, that's something. And definitely doing your social media thing, because I'm not, and now I realize I need to, because that's where they're finding people now,
Yeah.
Same. It's hard.
It super sucks. I hate it, but it's a necessary evil.
But you said something really amazing. It was you put what you liked. I see so many people imitating other people, but
Right.
the people that I follow that didn't previously follow me first are people that I could see they are actually enjoying what they do.
Yeah. That's it comes back to the voice thing. I feel like people like seeing unique stuff and seeing what you want to put, and seeing stuff that you're happy to do, because I feel genuinely stuff you'll always make something better if it's something that you enjoy making. And for me, that's Team Rocket fan art, and that's usually what my best work ends up being, and that's okay. But it is what got me my job, honestly. Yeah, just do what makes you happy at the end of the day.
That's good. That
Yeah.
kind of files into, by the way, I'm answering some of you guys' questions through text, some of the easier to answer through text questions, but that Kiana just brought up a good one. Somebody asked, is it okay to put in fan art in your portfolio? I feel like that's a bit of a layered question answer, because the short answer is yes, but
would depend on what it is, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it depends on how well you do it.
Mm.
For sure.
Because
At the end of the day, it is how
Yeah.
well you're drawing it.
I get torn because like I've worked with someone who was hired on our show in our house because of his fan art and his boards. They were amazing. But I know like sometimes people will just fill up their entire portfolio with nothing but fan art, thinking this is what's going to get them hired. And you are an individual first. Put your, you can have both. ¿Por qué no los dos? Why not both?
Yeah.
I'm gonna call out Kiana just because you guys can feel free to disagree with me, but I feel like someone like Kiana, and there's a lot of people that do kind of, put in fan art, but I think what made Kiana, I think, stand out is that it's not that she just sat there and did team market fan art TM. You know what I mean? Really look at like what she draws, what she chooses to draw. It's very inventive. She doesn't just take like screenshots from the anime and just draw that. You know what I mean? It's really personal. Like she's kind of made the characters her own.
She gave them a whole story. Like they're
Yeah.
a family. Like there's like families and stuff. Like
Got the
it's-
lore.
as though it's like there should be a whole AU, but there isn't. But it's on Twitter, and you gave it to us, and that's what's so great. It's like your moments are little stories, and
Yeah.
that's what a story artist is. It's just someone who can produce.
Yeah,
stories.
I think that's the big thing. Like if you want to be a story artist, you have to show your characters in a story, for better or worse. And yeah, like Kiana, like your work, like you draw your fan art, but you're always telling stories with them. Like you're always doing like these like really funny and cute like Team Rocket comics. And I think like that right there is like
I'm so embarrassed.
no.
I
Like that.
appreciate it.
Yeah, like that right there is like the perfect way to like show who you are, what you like, and your sensibilities
Yeah.
without having to like come up with people that you make yourself. But I think like in some cases like people do like to see like, well, what can you come up completely on your own versus like what can you use that's pre-existing. But at the same time, I think like especially right now, since we're in like the age of reboots and like there's like 80 million reboots happening right now. Like if you want to do like the fan art thing, like I definitely think the route of like taking the characters and sort of making them your own is probably like the best way to sort of show like, yeah, you like these things, but also, you have your own like brain that you can use to sort of make your own sort of things.
Because it is like working in TV, at least, like what you're doing is essentially glorified fan art. It's like you are taking somebody else's, like if you're not the showrunner, you're taking somebody else's characters and like seeing what you can do with them, and like just being able to imagine characters in like specific scenarios and stuff. Like that is what it is. But it does, like if you are doing like a fan art board for your portfolio, I will say like it might limit you in like who like and who's hiring you, because it's so specific to like that show that if that show doesn't hire you, it's kind of like, oh well, that's what you're gearing the board towards. Like who else would this be for if not for that show, so like maybe having a sample of one, if like it's something you've already done, like I would 100% like throw it in there if it's good. But I wouldn't have it be like your only thing. Like I like seeing people come up with their own stories, and it doesn't even have to be like anything crazy. It could literally just be a scenario. Like I think that's the best way to come up with like maybe board portfolio pieces, is maybe an experience that you had that you thought was funny that you can like build upon, and like give yourself like parameters to work in. Like, okay, I'm gonna do 3 kids in this board max. They're all like 10 to 14 years old, and like they're in a forest. Like give yourself that, and then like just have at it after that. And like I think that's a good place to start when you're doing your own stuff.
Yeah.
An assignment that I gave students at Amazusa Pacific when I taught for one semester the first assignment I gave them was storyboard you getting up in the morning and going to school.
It's fun.
You know, you know yourself the best. You know what your routines are. You know where you live, and therefore you almost don't have to push yourself as much in terms of trying to figure out what your environment looks like because you already live there. You know, so starting with those kinds of things, and then building up from there.
Great. Let's see another question. It's giving me an option to say answer live. I don't know what that button's gonna do.
Yeah.
But we're gonna try it out.
Answer live means you're going to answer that right now. You'll just like,
Yeah, I wonder what. So I'm gonna click on. Let me pick one at random because there's actually a lot. How do you keep yourself? Okay. How do you keep yourself motivated when nearly everything dissuades you from trying to move forward as an artist? That's a good one. That's a good question. Anyone want to take a stab? To lose his eyes and grew like 8 times in size.
Oh, because that's something I struggle with all the time. You're dealing with resistance, and sometimes certain days are easier than others. You just show up anyway. And then also, with that said, because there is overworking and pushing it when it's obviously not working, and realizing like, I'm gonna take a break, kind of like what Carol was saying earlier about you don't keep checking it, the oven. Sometimes you just need to bake a little bit and walk away from what you're doing and then come back to it, because I find that when I take breaks, I'll the first day or second day I'm drawing again, oh, it's a lot better, and there's that hand I've been trying to do forever, or that scene finally came out right. So it is like a weird balance of it all. It's not always fun, but my philosophy is not everything in life is always fun. Even the things we love the most hurt sometimes a little bit, just like relationships, work, trying to build better habits. It's a tug of war. Oh, it's a balance, not tug of war, sorry. It's a balance of the two. But yeah, sorry about that one. I couldn't help but react to that one emotionally.
Yeah, no, that's a very real one.
care about other people than yourself. If you are so focused on yourself, it's like having a canteen of water that you never open. It's gonna get stagnant. So if you find that you've lost your motivation and that you've gotten stagnant, maybe you need to go give to somebody else. It's like you'll be helping them, you might learn something from them. So you can be like, oh my goodness, this is something that can inspire me in doing this. I didn't want to teach that class at APU, but I had just said, God, I need a job. And then Tony Bancroft was like, hey, you want to teach a class? I'm like, no, but I'll do it. I learned so much, in teaching, doing this thing I didn't want to do, and it prepared me for this job that I have now that I didn't know was coming around the corner. So, if you're stuck, go out, care about somebody else than yourself.
Yeah, I think, oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but like definitely like that, like see friends, like hang out with your family, talk to other people, like have hobbies, like have other hobbies besides drawing. Because I think like there is this mindset sort of where you have to like obsessively be about drawing all the time with these kinds of jobs, and it's like, no, you don't. One, because that's not healthy, and two, because that's not healthy. And three, because you lose out on other things that happen in life, where I feel like if you just focus, like hyper focus on this one thing, there's like so many other things happening or that could happen to you that you end up missing out on because you're like, no, I have to draw all the time, or I have to, do this or that. But I think just like allowing yourself to be open to things that, come into your life or things that happen to you, whether that's like you can't draw or you feel like, you're not motivated or things like that, and to just experience that. I think in itself, it just helps you to become a better artist. You know, when you're ready to like come back to the drawing board and try again, you know. But I think the big thing is like the perseverance of like, you know, maybe you don't draw that day, maybe you don't draw that week or even that month, or maybe even that whole year. But, you know, as long as you come back to it, I think that's the most important thing, at least in
I
my
feel like-
opinion.
Yeah, I think that's something I learned maybe over the past year and a half. Because I don't know, like I've definitely been not posting on Twitter or like online as much as I used to. Like looking back, like maybe 2018, 2019, like I was literally posting a drawing every day just because I felt like, oh, I need to be getting better. I need to be like posting something. Like I need to stay relevant or like I need to practice more. But ultimately I think that it'll just burn you out and like sometimes like taking space from drawing will help you improve and like giving yourself that time to reflect on what you need to improve on, because if you're just going you're gonna have those blinders on and like you're not really seeing the bigger picture of like, oh, this is what I could be working on, like not using your energy effectively. And that's something I've definitely learned over the past couple years, and I feel like I'm better, like a better artist because of it. And I don't burn out as much, which is great.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like honestly, it's just cartoons. You know? Like,
Seriously.
it's just cartoons, you guys. Like I know a lot of people are like, this is my dream. Like I have to do, like, no, you don't. Like honestly, the cool thing about entertainment is that it's probably not going to go anywhere. Like these jobs aren't going to go anywhere unless, you know, robots take over. I don't see that happening anytime soon. So like you have time, like it's not a race. Like, you know, there's no like you have to do this right now or else, you know, something bad's gonna happen. Like it's fine. You know, it's fine.
We're gonna be fine, you guys.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on something. I think Carol and Luz both said it. I mean, guys, here's the reality. Like sometimes this shit is hard, right? It's like be kind to yourself. You know, don't overexert past your limit, you know, but you know, also be okay with pushing yourself. It's not always going to be easy, you know, especially for a lot of us, you know. A lot of us are, you know, underprivileged. A lot of us don't have a lot of money. A lot of us are Black. A lot of us aren't men, right? A lot of us aren't straight. So there's going to be a plethora of issues that we're going to have to deal with. And those are okay. And those are super valid. And it's okay to sit with those and be like, damn, it is hard to be me today, right? And you have to push, you know what I mean? It's like, not past your limit, don't be unhealthy about it, but it is going to be difficult, you know. And we can all sit here and kind of collectively just say like we understand, you know, but also, you know, we know it takes a little bit of extra, you know.
Yeah.
This is not an easy industry, you know, not even a little bit.
That book, Growth Mindset, I think it's called The Growth Mindset, was such a huge helper on talking to myself in art, because sometimes these limitations I'll tell myself of like, well, I don't know, I try not to hold on too much on what I can't do or what's not working at the moment, and started thinking of it, well, not today, maybe tomorrow, maybe not this year, next year, maybe not your 20s, maybe your 30s, maybe your 40s, you know.
Definitely not a race, like Kelly said. You know, that's a positive mindset to have.
I agree. Yeah, like that's sort of what I've been trying to do. It's like maybe not now, but one day, you know, you can prepare for that one day, because you never know when it'll happen. And that's kind of like the game of life, where like you never know when something's gonna happen, but you just have to be ready for it, you know, hopefully. You know, to the best of your ability, be ready, because that could be the thing that, takes you where you want to go. So yeah, and I feel like I was gonna say something else and now I forgot. I forgot.
Passing the mic back to Kelly. Just
No.
putting you on full blast. Everyone turn your cameras off. Only Kelly's
Oh
gonna
my
be
God,
on.
no, my nightmare. Oh no, I think I was gonna go off of like what you were saying, Austin, about like how hard this job is. Because like being in there, I feel like there's nothing like being in a room and you're like the only Black person there, and you're just like sitting there trying not to dissociate, and because you're just like, oh, it's just me, like I'm it, so that's part of the the real experience of being Black in animation, where you like see things and you hear things, and sometimes they hit you and you're like, oh, I don't know how to feel about that, or I don't know how to feel about this, and you're constantly like having this war in your brain of like, is it me or is it something else, so it's like all these different things that you have to deal with, not just in animation, but just like in the workforce in general. So I think like we're all saying, like, be kind to yourself, because there's a lot of instances where things are not kind to you, and sometimes you don't deserve them. They just happen.
And also to encourage people, as being somebody who has been in the industry for a while, it those things may be, I can't deny anybody's experience, but it's thinking not the worst of people, and just focusing on your own journey and your own path. Because I got in the industry when I was the only other person of color in the room, but I never thought about it. I was interviewed by Don Hahn, and mentors were Mark Henn and Glenn Keane, and these are like old white guys, but I never thought about it. They were just people that were helpful, and I think sometimes we can sit around and obsess too much about what we look like, when we should just be focusing on what we do. And that might take like some pressure off of ourselves and our work, is to just, if somebody doesn't like you, they don't like you. They're not going to like you, not necessarily because of your color, or they may not like you because of your color, but that's their problem. It's not yours. You're not responsible for how they are. You're only responsible for how you react. So you just feel like, okay, there's another, when COVID first started happening, I was like all terrified of like walking across somebody's path when I'd go walking. And so I had this little game that I would play. Like if I saw somebody coming, I would just turn and go a different route. I knew how to get home, but I would be going these different ways. And one day I ended up this street that I'd never been up before, and saw the most beautiful houses I'd ever seen. Just like a half a mile away from where I lived. But I wouldn't have done that if I had it just, like, I'm mad, I'm just gonna go through this. I'm like, no, let's go a different direction. So that's how I deal with those kind of things. It's like, okay, that door's closed, I'll go this other direction.
Yeah, I work with Carol, and we literally chatted about this like a few weeks ago. Like it's definitely something I've been trying to do myself, which is just trying to like conserve my energy. Because kind of like Kelly was saying, like, there are times you have these experiences and it's like your first time, and you sit there and you feel like you're going crazy. You're just like, damn, why is this happening? Right. And a lot of it, and what I kind of learned to conceptualize, especially talking with Carol, is that, and I'm being very careful with my words here, is that it's not about you, it's about them. But that's also kind of the problem. You know what I mean? It's that we really, I think we have to continue talking about this kind of stuff. A lot of the inherent biases people have, do affect us in real time. You know what I mean? A lot of what we develop are survival mechanisms to get through it, but that is not sustainable long term, right? Us as a people, as a collective. So it's really good to conserve our individual energies to make sure we're not like, you know, for our own sakes, you know, kind of checking this stuff out and being like, damn, that is happening, you know, but making sure we have a community to go to. The biggest issue I think we have is that when this happens on a job, you look to the other Black person, oh wait, they're not there, right? So you have no idea what's going on.
Sorry,
Right.
just is
Yeah.
so
It's
true. You're just like,
So that's why we got this, right? We can all be here and be like, y'all see that shit too? Okay, now, okay, we're good. You know, now we can come here, we can make a change, right? This is where we can have therapy. This is where we can collect.
Well,
our
can I
thoughts.
add one thing though?
Yeah,
I
go
know
ahead.
I added a lot of things, but when I was on Tarzan, you know, my entire crew was, you know, it was like 2 white ladies and the rest were guys, white guys. And one day I was getting there was some free fruit, free fruit. And there was some watermelon there. And so I was picking up some watermelon and some guy from a different floor walked by and white guy, and he said, try not to be part of your stereotype. And I was like,
Sorry.
he chose violence.
He chose violence.
And he said, and so I looked at him like that, and he was like, well, my friends say I can't remember what it was. And I said, well, they're your friends, you know, indicating that you can say that kind of stuff to your friends, but you can't say that kind of stuff to me. So I just was like, okay. And then I walked away to my team and I was just like, oh, what do you know? What did just happen? And they were like, they wanted to go beat him up. You know, these are white guys. You know, I'm all like, no, you don't need to do that. You know, so it's like if you're just be friendly. You know, if you have, you'll always have friends. You know, you can express how you feel to your friends. You know, no matter what, you don't have to feel like you're alone.
Yeah, and I think to say like there are good people in animation, like there aren't a bunch of racists running around, you know, and we'll have to like, you know, dodging racists around every corner. I think just like it, for better or for worse, this is a part of our identity and it affects how we move throughout the world because the world isn't built for us, to put it bluntly. And so I think just being aware that these are things that could possibly happen, but like always trying to like see the best in people and, you know, not immediately think that this person is going to be, you know, bad or say something offensive or anything like that. I guess with like my words, it's just like to be cautious. I think because I'm like kind of a cautious person. But I also want to be honest. Like, I don't want to say that, oh yeah, this is just like a great place to be and like nothing's ever bad and we just draw cartoons all day. Like, no, you have struggles like artistically and, you know, with your peers. So I think it's just a part. Sorry, my cat's like freaking it. I don't know, she's just like losing it. Yeah, this is something that you just have to be aware of, just like you have to be aware of your drawing skills or, you know, your cinematic language, and, you know, like keep doing your best and like, you know, be a nice person, be good, and like take showers. You know,
Take showers.
Showers are
Draw.
great.
Kelly, please.
I feel like you can go so far if you just be nice and take showers.
Honestly, drink water.
Drink water.
Okay, so we have a hard out at 8, so we have time for one more question. I'm going to let Walla, you choose the question.
Ooh, okay.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Don't mess up.
There's only like 50, so I'm gonna go near like early questions.
That's nice of you. Yeah, there are quite a bit. And again, guys, we're gonna do more of these, so please don't worry if we don't get to your question. So we will get to you. We've answered some of them through text, so you can go ahead and check those too.
Yeah, I was typing some out.
Yeah, I
Oh
saw
my
it. Thank you,
God.
Kiana. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You guys have been so good. You guys have been, I'm living. But anyways. All right, Mr. Wally, you got one?
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna choose this one. I think it's pretty like short and sweet. How useful is LinkedIn for you? I think this one might be a good one
Oh,
because we all know so and so wants to add you. This person viewed your thing 5 times. Like, how useful is that for you guys?
I mostly use it for making my resume. Like whenever like somebody's asked for a resume, I'm like, "Ah, I don't have one. I just go to LinkedIn and like print it out. I'm just like, there we go. I don't know, it's good for having like just showing your body of work and having it out there. I don't know. I feel like it might be just because I don't have as much of a presence on LinkedIn as I do on like Instagram or Twitter. So I haven't really gotten reached out to by people on LinkedIn before, but I know plenty of people who have gotten jobs from it. I definitely got reached out to board on Veggie Tales once on LinkedIn.
Hey.
So it's like a very specific crowd there. I think that I think you could probably get something from. But it is helpful, like I guess when you're looking for artists as well. It's not necessarily my job, because like I don't recruit and I'm not a showrunner. But I think there have been instances where my showrunners like see somebody on Twitter and they're like, oh cool, we like their art, and then like they'll see if they have a LinkedIn and then see like all their experience or what they've been before. I think it's helpful in that way, but me personally, it hasn't done too much for me, I would say.
Same. I've only used it just for resumes, just to keep track of like I worked here, I worked here, I worked here. But now I really just keep it to message my old college mentor happy birthday every year.
Oh, cute.
I love him. He's great.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, it's just to keep track of my jobs and like as a resume. But I think it is really good for like finding recruiters,
Mhm.
like finding people who like work in recruiting at the certain like different studios and sort of using that to try and contact them. So I definitely think it's worthwhile to have.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to have one, I think
Yeah.
is what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to be everywhere.
Truly.
It's just keeping up with everywhere.
That's the
It's
hard
kinda-
part.
Just be
That's the hard
consistent.
part.
If you are going to be everywhere, be consistent, like the same username, same, it's easy to find you and flow to you. I feel like that's,
Branding.
yeah. And unfortunately, this world that we live in is all about branding, and you yourself are
Truly.
kind of like a brand.
Mhm.
So, kind of like your friend that you showed their example for their portfolio, Austin, with the black backdrop,
Alex.
branding.
Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, branding.
He has a strong brand.
Mhm.
That's so fun you guys say that. I'm like the opposite. I've gotten a couple of job offers from LinkedIn, and also my fellow Disney intern, Maya Muna. Shout out to Maya Muna if you're watching this. I love Maya Muna. No, she got an offer for the internship on LinkedIn. So
Oh, awesome.
yeah, it's super weird. I haven't heard of that happening before. But I guess it does happen. But to you guys' point, it's not really common. I think it's like once in a blue moon I get a message that's like, hey, you want to work here? And I'm just like, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not popping off,
Yeah,
but
no.
it can happen. Just like it can happen on any of the sites.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
nice because then you know, like on LinkedIn, that the source is usually credible, whereas on Twitter, it's like,
It's like, who are you?
who are you? I'm a little scared. But on LinkedIn, it's usually like, oh yeah, they mean business. They have a LinkedIn.
Right. So that is all time we have. I want to give a big thank you to our panelists, and also shout out to Black and Animated for hosting this entire thing and sponsoring us. Thank you guys so much. If you guys are in the chat or Q&A, because there's no chat, we'll get the chat working next time. But thank you guys again so much for coming. You guys were incredible. I had an amazing time with you guys.
This was great.
You did a
Nice talking to you
fabulous
guys.
job, Austin. This was amazing.
Yay, Austin.
All of you,
Yes.
all of
Thank
you
you so
all.
much.
Oh my goodness, I'm so honored to meet you and see your work. And I'm gonna have to find you on Instagram and follow you and feel really sad that I
Yeah.
can't draw like you. But I'll be inspired.
Inspired. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Check out the next series. We're going to be talking about storyboard tests and landing your first job. So that will be the next in the series. Thank you guys so much again for coming. Thanks again to Black and Animated. Thanks for our panelists, and thanks to Pico, I guess, for me.
Yes.
Thanks, Walla, for helping everything run smoothly. And I guess that's all we got for you guys. All right. So until next time, something outro, something.
Yeah.
We'll workshop it.
Yeah.
And one final thing, me and Walla will be streaming, and we'll have
Yep.
sort of like a wind down chat of this probably this Friday. We'll be doing that after each Kiki with Kojo session.
Nice.
So I'll see you guys later. Thanks again for coming.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.